Welcome to the Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're about to completely flip the script on how you view success. So often, we look at high-achieving entrepreneurs and just assume they were born with superhuman drive. But today, we're going to demystify self-discipline. We're going to look at the hard data and see that discipline is not some genetic gift. It's actually a highly trainable biological skill. If you're a focused learner looking to systematically upgrade your mental operating system, you are in the exact right place.
So, why is it that some entrepreneurs seem to just thrive in absolute chaos, while others completely burn out? We've all been there, right? Staring at a screen, totally overwhelmed, wondering how the greats manage to push through all the noise. Okay, let's dive into this. Because the answer isn't just about having more passion. It's deeply rooted in the actual science of mental toughness and how we regulate our brain's energy.
Here's our blueprint for today. We're going to cover the myth of infinite willpower, the neuroscience of self-control, how to protect your energy, reprogramming that reward system, Navy SEAL mental toughness, and finally, we'll wrap up with the billion-dollar daily routine.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the myth of infinite willpower.
Look, it's time we bust this myth that successful business leaders just grit their teeth and push harder than the rest of us. Honestly, that's a one-way ticket to burnout, not a strategy for success. Willpower is actually a finite, daily resource. Think of it like your brain operating on an energy budget. Every single decision you make, big, small, it doesn't matter, acts as a withdrawal from that daily account. When your brain senses that supply running low, it totally goes into conservation mode. To save what little energy is left, it just gives in to temptation and stops expending energy on self-control. That right there is exactly why you skip the gym after a long day of making tough business choices.
Moving on to Section 2, the neuroscience of self-control.
Now, since willpower is an energy budget, we really need to understand the physical hardware managing it, your prefrontal cortex. It actually categorizes self-discipline into 3 specific zones. The upper left side is your I will power. That's the engine keeping your nose to the grindstone even when a task is literally the most boring thing ever. Then you have the upper right side, your I won't power. Think of this as your emergency brake holding you back from checking social media when you really should be working. And finally, the lower middle portion is your I want power. This tracks your ultimate desires and reminds you why you're grinding so hard in the first place. These 3 regions are constantly working together, in real time, nudging you to stay on track.
But hey, what if your prefrontal cortex is feeling a little weak right now? Well, science shows we can actually upgrade it. Dr. Andrew Huberman's research highlights how adult neuroplasticity works. Basically, how you rewire your brain. To change your brain, you need extreme alertness and focus. Doing high-intensity work releases chemicals like acetylcholine and norepinephrine, which act like a giant spotlight for your focus. But here's the crazy secret. The actual physical rewiring of those self-discipline pathways, it doesn't happen while you're working. It happens during deep sleep. Yeah, sleeping on the job is literally required for mental toughness. Well, at night anyway. You embrace the struggle during the day to trigger the process, and then you sleep at night to actually cement those new neural pathways.
Which brings us to Section 3, psychology, protecting your energy.
Okay, so our hardware is getting upgraded. Now, what about the software? How do we protect this energy budget from being wasted on the wrong things? For that, we turn to some landmark research from the Stanford Spark Initiative by Peter Gollwitzer. This study gives us some massive scientific backing on how we should be setting goals. Because as it turns out, most of us are setting goals in a way that actively drains our willpower.
See, a standard goal intention is just weak. Saying, I will exercise or I'm going to write a business plan forces your brain to constantly decide when and how to do it, burning up that precious energy budget we just talked about. The upgrade here is an implementation intention. You create a simple if-then framework, like, if it is 7 a.m., I will run. By tying the behavior to a specific situational trigger, you automate the entire decision. You completely bypass that prefrontal cortex's decision-making drain.
And the results of making that one simple psychological shift? Absolutely staggering. In Gollwitzer's study, participants using standard goal intentions for difficult tasks had a completion rate of just 22%. But the ones who furnished their goals with implementation intentions, they hit a 62% completion rate. They nearly tripled their success just by automating the initiation of the task. That is a total game changer.
As an entrepreneur, you've got to relentlessly protect your energy budget to avoid decision fatigue. So here are some rapid-fire real-world tactics you can use to automate your life. Plan your clothes in advance. There's a reason Mark Zuckerberg became famous for wearing the exact same gray t-shirt every day. Fashion critiques aside, it is brilliant choice minimalism. Sign up for meal delivery. Delegate trivial choices to your team. And maybe most importantly, never make critical business decisions at the end of a long, exhausting day. Delay them to the morning when your willpower tank is totally full.
All right, let's roll into Section 4, reprogramming the reward system.
We really need to talk about dopamine, because there is so much internet hype confusing ambitious professionals right now. Let's separate the hype from the actual science. You've probably heard of dopamine fasting, where influencers claim you need total isolation or starvation to flush dopamine from your system. Well, science tells us dopamine is definitely not a toxin. It's a vital neurotransmitter, and you literally can't just flush it out. What is actually backed by science is using cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness to reduce your reactivity to triggers. By cutting back on compulsive digital overstimulation, you protect your brain's reward center, specifically the nucleus accumbens, from just shifting into autopilot. So it's not about chemical starvation, it's all about intentional living.
Next up, Section 5, Navy SEAL mental toughness. When we talk about optimizing the brain under extreme pressure, let's be honest, no one does it better than elite military operators. Their secret? It's the famous 40% rule. During their brutal training, candidates are taught a super powerful motivational anchor. When your body is totally exhausted and your brain is screaming at you to absolutely stop and quit, you haven't actually hit your physical limit. You've only tapped into 40% of your tank. You still have 60% left in reserve. Your brain sounds the alarm early just to protect you, but with the right motivation, you can totally transcend that false limit.
But how exactly do they access that remaining 60% without panicking? They use arousal control. When chaotic situations pop up, the brain releases stress hormones like cortisol, which totally clouds your judgment. SEALs counter this using a technique called 4x4 box breathing. You breathe in steadily for 4 seconds and out steadily for 4 seconds, and you just repeat that until your heartbeat normalizes. This deliberate physiological action actually signals safety to your brain. It halts the cortisol release and brings that prefrontal cortex, your executive control center, right back online.
And finally, Section 6, the billion-dollar daily routine.
All right, grand finale time. Let's distill all this neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and SEAL tactics into one cohesive daily routine you can literally use tomorrow morning. First, wake up early and hydrate immediately. Spend just 10 to 20 minutes doing some mindfulness or meditation to grow that prefrontal cortex gray matter. Take a cold shower. The physical discomfort literally exercises your willpower muscle before you even step out the door. Write out your lists to automate the day. And finally, eat the frog. Meaning, do your hardest, most impactful task first thing in the morning when your brain's energy budget is completely full.
I want to leave you with a final provocative question today. What is the one trivial decision you are going to automate today? Remember, building the self-discipline of a successful entrepreneur is not magic. It is a highly trainable biological and psychological system. Stop relying on infinite grit and start architecting an environment that protects your energy. So look at your schedule. Find one trivial decision that's draining your willpower and automate it right now. Take that first step, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.